This is an interesting presentation. It's the vintage 4.3 Service Pack 2, the official one. Many of you have probably seen this presentation before. I did it for the Let's Speak BO series. Paul had me do this one in a little longer time window, and I offered it for 4.3 so people can transition over. When you think back to 4.2, as I did in all my training and presentations and all, the analysis tab was our key tab, or key ribbon, I guess you want to be technically correct, for a lot of the unique features: ranking, breaking, sorting, filtering, and so on. There's a slew of them. But the most powerful one is the break. So with 4.3, you still have that functionality, very similar kind of way, in a different location. And what I want to do is a quick demo to show you how you can do the breaks. A lot of the things with grouping the breaks or multiple breaks, alternative ways, maybe with a master detail and so on, and give you a flavor and a good feel for 4.3 and navigating it. Like many of the people that have presented, I've had an opportunity to work with the first 4.3 beta and then SP1, which was real fun, and now SP2 for a while, now through the full release here, and see some of the improvements and all. So let's get out here. Here's your front end window. I'm just going to navigate quickly through. I'm, like Paul said, within a fairly short window, you can get pretty comfortable. You learn the navigation tricks and so on. I'm sure Roxanne will do a great job, as she always does, later on the 10, I think it's 10 tips for navigating in 4.3. We just get comfortable. There's certain features we just got to have. And it's the ones on the analysis tab: the break, sort, and filter. I nicknamed the big three. Where are they? How do I do it? Pretty similar. So let me go out there. Let's go out just straight out to Webby. We'll come in to the new BI Launchpad. You get kind of a feel. And in the navigation process, it's just getting comfortable where things are. Recently enhanced this. We've added the left side on to what was here. You have your universe web intelligence document as a new data source. A very hot feature, a lot of advantages and so on for that one as well. Bringing in Excel. I recently upgraded so that my handout on Excel and multiple data providers with queries and so on is set for 4.3 as well. So let's just stick with the universe, and with the limited time window, make sure I covered this adequately. And one that's out here, we'll use. And the query panel is a starting point. It's kind of the basics of building a report. The BI Launchpad has always been just the front end. It didn't serve to do a lot, but we wanted to get into the query panel and then the report viewer side, which is the output, which we're going to do here. And Paul addressed it as well, and some of the comments made as well. Query panel is fairly transitional from what you're used to seeing, but when you get to the output report viewer side, that's where the right panel, whatever you want to call it, the main right side is the official name, I guess, for it, where it starts to get a little tricky. So we're up front. Here's your standard query panel, slightly different look to your dimensions, details, and measures, and so on. Objects on the right, and so on. So let's just set something up real quick that allow us to take advantage and get into the breaks in the 30-minute window that we have. We'll just load it up, get you comfortable with it. Again, I'll pop up at the end, time permitting, my contact information, where you can track it down and get a hold of me later if you would want a handout of the presentation as well. So let's bring in a couple measures and so on here. We'll bring those in, and we've loaded up our query panel. Here's a query filters. I could open up the view feature that we had over in 4.2 as well. Notice on the bottom, we got to go to the bottom now. Let me get this window over here on the right out of the way so I can, need to minimize that one on the site so I have more viewing area. Notice the run and so on's on the bottom. And I always get a kick out of this. It's almost kind of a running thing where it seems with every major release, they move the run and so on, all the standard secondary options, apply changes and close or cancel. It goes from the top to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom. Well, now it's on the bottom, just tip you off. So when you start looking for it, we get so programmed to looking in certain places, so learning to navigate some of the tricks. And again, with Roxanne's presentation, you're not going to want to miss it. Be able to get in navigation. We could do a whole presentation on that she's going to do as well. So let me move it over. You'll see how the report came up. I like to move things over to the right side to work with it. I got this screwy title still sitting out there, which I'm going to get rid of. And here is my report, loaded up with multiple dimensions. One of the big things I want to be able to address is doing multiple breaks, which is as common can be. It's not enough just to break on one, but you want to break on several of your dimensions. There's different ways you can handle it as well. So by clicking on it, if you click in the white area here, basically deselect your block, Up in the upper left side up here, you're not really seeing a whole lot. You see the default filter and so on. We want to come in through here, so we're going to show the report element data to open it up, but we need to highlight the block there. Another way to hide the block is over on the right side. In the main panel, you can learn very quickly. You can go to the report structure button over there, and you can click on the main block as opposed to the header and footer and activate it that way as well. Earlier versions, it was a little tricky to get it to select the whole block as once. The moment I did that, on the left side up here under my show report element data, it changed. And if we come down through the list here, okay, we can come to the display the feeding panel. The feeding panel is what drives all of this. It's a very important one. We'll click on that, and it brings up all of your objects that are here that are already defined. I can delete them out by clicking here and dragging them back in, drag them in between, and so on. But I want to concentrate more on the break side of it right now for time's sake as well. I purposely set it up. I've got ready to go. Here's the option for displaying the break panel, which we'll get to in a minute. A popular one here called ranking. There's our sorting, which we'll utilize in a minute. And I can do my local filtering panel as well. So that functionality is still there. You don't see it on the left side on the analysis panel. We see it over on the right on this particular panel here, the report element data for that particular one there. Okay, so that's how we laid it out. So logically, what would I like to do? I'd like to add a break. I can click on the break in here and say, okay, and the window changes. These are things you pick up very quickly. We worked with the 4.2 and earlier releases, so it makes it fairly easy transition coming in. And I want to add a break. So what I can come in is click the down arrow, and now it brings up the checkbox feature for which objects do you want to break. Okay, what if I do it single versus multiple? Let's try single only. I want to do one on year. Okay, so I've selected year for that. Click the OK button. Now I'll get my automatic break for year, and lo and behold, there it is. Okay, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, old data. This is with the universe that was in the local product copy that we had here. So I've got my data, and if I wanted, I can add a second level as well. We'll just stick with one. Over on the year panel, now you come in and say, well, what if I want to do some options for that, like we did before, what we called manage breaks. Manage breaks is now here. We click the setting button, and up comes a very familiar window, hopefully to all of you. It's the old manage break window. I like the transition in that it's got the same general layout as we did from 4.2. In working with users, training them, even if it's a kind of a summary accelerator or more detail level, what we want to always try to do is to try to see where we have similarities and differences, and for the differences, bridge the gap. So here's my break header, my footer, apply sort, and so on. Start on a new page. We're happy with the way it is. We could do the values button for a value-based break. Classic old things with displaying it first, all, or merge is also available for us as well, and start on a new page. So let's just leave it the way it is. That worked great. Okay, and the breaks there. Notice another little feature, a 4.2 feature, late 4.2, Service Pack 6 or 7, I can never remember. You'll notice the automatic break, subtotals for each break. It carried over. I was hoping we would keep that functionality, and they indeed did keep the functionality and carry it forward. So get the automatic breaks, subtotaling for us right there, okay? So if I wanted, I could go back in here. We could go into the properties and say, now that I've done that, maybe we will apply a start on a new page for each year and so on, but things to consider later on as well, okay? And now I want to add a second break for quarter. Very common thing to do. You have multiple break levels. It's as common as can be. So what I want to do is add a second break. So we'll click the down arrow, and this time we'll select quarter. I'm going to do them independent. They're not being grouped. I'll show you grouping in a minute. We're doing an independent hierarchy, one break and then a second break within it. So now my quarters come up with the subtotals. My year gives me, at the end of the 4 quarters, when I hit the end of the year, you get your totals at the year level. Once again, even though it's another break, I get another set of subtotals. Okay, so it's nice to know that it's working that way. Now, I don't like the way the headers line up. And there was a way to do it in the 4.2 release I would show people as well. So it's repeating the full, at the break level, the full set of titles going across. Realistically, do I really need that? All I need is the year with the first quarter, and then the remaining piece of it being the quarter break levels that you see right in here. So what I could do is I could go in here and say, well, let's go in for year. Let's hit the, that's for changing the order. I don't want to do that. We're going to turn the break footer off and the break header on for this one. Just for a quick glimpse to show you what it did. Okay, get a double. Then I'm going to go into the quarter one. I'm going to go into the properties for that one. And that one, we want to turn the header off. And we only want the break footer for that one. And we end up with a nicer looking break. So now notice that as the quarters change, I don't carry the first column, the first dimension column here's worth of data year being repeated as well. That's always been the same for that as well. So let's go back. Let's get rid of the breaks. So well, let's go back and do this another way. Let's look at how we would group it. Notice how you can literally, the delete button option is scattered throughout. You see it everywhere in the query panel and other areas as well. Kind of get used to that as well. So now I want to do a break, but I want it to be a grouped break. All right. So when I come in, let's do year and do quarter and do an OK. And now it's got the year and quarter grouped together. And it's back to displaying it the other way, which may not be how we want it. But again, this is doing it as a group. We had that feature in 4.2. We have that feature here in 4.3, as you see right there. I would not want to do it that way. I would want to do it individually on each one and turn the carryover for the title area as well. So again, we have that functionality available for us there. And we'll take those out. And now let's go back and let's add it back in again. And let's just do year first. And we'll do quarter second. We'll leave the defaults the way they are. It's you can see very easy to manage the breaks. Put them back in there. And now again, to go back to the properties, each individual one has the properties, which we would drive through the settings here. And again, we may want to change the headers, footers. You have value-based break, which can also be done. What if I want to do a value-based break? And I want to do a value-based break on year. And I only want to do the break on year if it's 17 or 18. Okay, it's a different type of break based on certain values. So if you have 2 or 3 I guess we discovered a little interesting little problem here. Aha, what I'd like to call an undocumented feature. Hopefully Samuel Company noted that one. But that was an interesting one to pop up for us. So we've got our year and a quarter. What if I want to apply a sort? We're not here to talk about sort, but I might want those so that the year is in a different direction. Let's make sure our value base is cleared out properly. Nope, I always want to do that. Get used to that. We'll turn that back off to make sure. I will make a note on that one to pass that one back along to Samuel and crew here for that one. So we're back to breaking it out. Automatic subtotals, intermediate totals. I can go to year. Notice now, how do I incorporate in? We're doing the same kind of things we did in 4.2 off the analysis tab. We're mixing and matching different combinations. And here, this is the two that you typically do a lot of. I apply a break, but then I apply a sort. Okay, so go over to the sort button here. And we're going to add a sort. And we're going to do it on year. Okay. And a little different how it does it. But now here's how you would click between ascending and descending. You can click the button here to flip the order around the other way. So now I've got my descending order done that particular way. We don't have that little drop down that we were used to seeing in 4.2 with the analysis tab. It's in a different place. And again, we can go back in if we wanted to. And for the year, we could also go in. Let's just throw in the, I want to do it on that one there. I want to do it over here on the break side to make sure I'm in the right place. You got to learn to navigate back and forth across as well. Let's go back in and let's, just for kick's sake, we'll put in starting on a new page for that particular one. We've already highlighted the flip-flopping up here for those values as well. It'll kick it up, page numbers as well. You notice another little thing. So now that I broke it out, I've got to navigate using page numbers. Once again, little things that we are so programmed to doing. We're so used to looking on the bottom for the paging, left, right, from one page to the next, or very front, back to the front, or all the way to the very end of it. But now it's on top. But then our run query for the query panel is on the bottom. So there's little things that you can get caught up in sometimes when you're working with it. Kind of wonder, wait a minute, I thought it was this way before. Well, here you go. The page number you see here, okay? And it kicks it up separate for each page. We can take a look at page 2, page 3, so on, all the way down the line for that one as well. Let me scroll this back with the window as well. So again, different ways of handling that as well. Let me get rid of these again. Do some more navigating. So we saw how easy it was to throw in a filter while we're at it, okay? And what if, while I'm doing that, what if I decide I want to break on year, okay? So we'll add break. Let's do it, put it back in for year. But I also want to do a filter, do it together. So while I'm in here, what I can do is I can also click display the filter panel to come up, which is what it opened with. Drop an object from the filter list. I want to do a filter on year. And notice how it comes up. You'll see this in the query panel side when you're doing a prompt and with a list of values to bring up, a list of values to select. They went to checkboxes now. So we no longer have the box on the left with the arrows in the middle and the box on the right and going back and forth. They've changed it to work this particular way. And maybe I only want my 17 and my 18 data only, so we'll just limit it to that. And now we've combined the best of both worlds and worked it in very effectively that way as well. So it's getting used to what's up here, making sure you're on the element data, but the block's highlighted. And now that we've already got it here, we're good to go. That'll take us back off of the options for your filtering and ranking and sorting and breaks and so on there as well. Okay. You can remove from in here. You can drag things out. You can drag things in, part of the general navigation. I'm sure that Roxanne will hit some of those as well, but let's concentrate more on the breaks at this particular point. So we did a little filter on it to clean it up a little bit for this particular point. So now let's talk about a couple of little features. And if you saw this when I did the Let's Speak BO series, when Paul Grill had me do this for one of the presentations, I talked about this as well. 4.2 compatible with 4.3, very easy to work with. Okay. When we get in here and come in for this break to put in there, I decided that I want a break, but I want the break to be done outside the block and not inside. What I'm alluding to is the concept of a master detail report, one of the hidden gems that you have available inside a BusinessObjects Webby, and it can be used very effectively here as well. Let me do this. Let me go back to year. Let's go. Notice it tells you there's one break, there's one sort. Watch the numbers. Okay, there's a filter turned on as well. I can go back in here. I'm just going to eliminate it just for simplicity's sake is all. So now what I like to do instead is do what we could call it an implied break. Isn't a master detail or a section report nothing but a break, but the break's pulled out and becomes a master or a header? Well, that's in effect exactly what's going on. So what if in this particular example, just to be different, I wanted to have a break on state? Okay, well, an implied way to do that is I could take the state, I could drag it up and out, drag it over to the left side here. And now I got it a little bit too far over on the left side there. So let me undo that. There is an undo here for that one, getting it in the right place. So what I want to do is I'm going to pull it out. And the old classic way, you can drag the column out. You can right click and do one that way as well, but we don't want that. We want this up here is what we want. And I'll move it around later. The master detail sectioning piece can sometimes be a little tricky, but you learn very quickly. I'm just going to drag it over here. I want it a little bit closer to what it was to bring it in a little bit better. Okay, let me scroll over to the right. So now we've got an implied break. Isn't that really what a break is? That's exactly what a break is. You pull it out. Instead of breaking on it and keeping it within the block, I pull it out and I make it an implied block, but it's a master cell for the detail. You said, but when I do it inside the report, if I were to do a break on year here while we're doing this, which has 0, and add a break in here, okay, I get the automatic subtotals. I get a little bonus. Well, I get penalized, don't I? Well, not really. If you're familiar with this from 4.2, or if you're learning for the first time, this is master cell. We sectioned this report into a state that's a master in the year quarter that basically is the detailed section of it. And what I'd like to do is I would like to put the totals not underneath, which wouldn't make sense now, but right next door. We do it down here because we're in a vertical table format. We're in a master detail. All I got to do is go over here, grab my sales revenue, drag it across. And there are other ways to do things, but the most typical way people do, I'll show you right here. We'll widen it out a little bit. We'll make it a little bit bigger. You know, the default size still too small. And we'll move this over to the left a little bit so it's lined up in this area. And we'll grab, that was sales revenue, so grab quantity sold next. We'll drop that into place right here. And we'll stretch it out this way, and we'll move it down this way. And away you go. Now, just like you have the breaks feature where we basically opened up the break. So if I was looking at year and I went in and I looked at the breaks that are up here, there's one in there. I can't really add a break to the master section because it's an implied break, but we're just kind of drawing a comparison for you right there. But by doing it this way, we have our subtotals, but they're placed next to it in a typical hierarchical way that you would read it. If I wanted, I could sort on the state column. That's still available, but I'm using a master detail report as an alternative way to do breaks in a different kind of way. And a lot of people like that, and the flexibility that comes with it. You can manage this with your breaks. The implied one is up here, and as you know, with the master detail report, it gives you that more of a hierarchical view. You have your map tab that you can navigate with, and so on as well for that part of it. There's one last thing I want to cover, and we'll wrap it up and give you opportunity for questions. And I did this when I did the 4.2 version of this, the magic of breaks. Okay, the magic of breaks. Grouping. By grouping things, in effect, you're kind of doing a break. So what if I decided I wanted to go over to here, okay? And I want to edit no, manage groups, yes, I want to manage a group for that one. And let's create a group for this instead, call it region. Okay, and I want to basically take California. We'll just pick one in there real quick to show you. In Colorado, we'll use the group. Notice it's down on the bottom, not on the top. These are little things that a user can get frustrated. It's right here. Where is it? I'm used to it being up here. Well, you got to look around a little bit. Things have moved. There's a grouping button, a move to, and an ungroup, and so on. And then your hand group values. Things are in a little different location. And I think having a sandbox environment, playing it, and looking for these kind of things will really help your skill come along very quickly. So I normally would do all of them, but let's I'll get it to come out here. Oh, it's giving me a little flack on that one.
You have to group them first. The
Yeah.
group button top at the bottom left.
I didn't hit the group button. I forgot to put my West Coast. I thought I already put it in there, and I didn't. So thank you. I'm just going to do the one group is all. Obviously, it remembered it from history, me banging away on this before as well. So not best for master detail necessarily, but it works nevertheless. So what I'd want to do in that case, the better way to do it would be to take the state out as a master detail out, just do it within the report, and then the grouping is a little bit clear, a little better that way as well. I would want to create the group first and then use the group up here as opposed to the state. So that's an alternative way. It's not one that's used, the grouping as much, but doing the one or more layering of the breaks, using the new break here. I like the layouts as you move that to ranking, changes here, your sorting changes here, your filter changes here. It's all in the same general area. It's not on the ribbon or tab going across, but it's in the same general area. So as long as I'm working inside of there, they're all right here. It gives you the count values. It shows you there's a filter unapplied on that one as well. So I think the transition for that with a little bit of oversight like we're doing right now, a little overview like this, we could speed up that process of getting in there to be able to do the breaks and to manage the breaks as well. So hopefully it kind of gave you a little feel for navigating and how to navigate within the report viewer window here that we're at, making sure you've selected the block so that you can come in here and look at the feeding panel and then go back to my breaks or jump over to my ranking or jump over to my sorting. Just get used to some of the little subtleties that come along with it as well. So I'm going to stop right there. I'd like to give us a couple minutes for question and answer. Lucy's going to court.
Hey, Michael. Yeah, there haven't been any questions so far, but I think that's because everyone was so wowed with the new 4.3 UI. They're looking at it and going, oh, this is a little bit different. This is a little bit different, you know. And but you know, I think you did an excellent job, Michael, of actually showing, you know, that it's nice to use and it's easy to use in this context. You know, absolutely. But no questions at this point. I'll give it another few seconds.
Looking for a handout on it for this particular one for the new 4.3 vintage. I will be more than happy to share this with you as you get a little more in depth, look at some of the things that I just touched on in the 30-minute window. But I've done a lot of the best practice guides that I've upgraded for 4.3 compatibility. You know, Paul and I both realize as organizations that we know you're going to be looking for, you know, make it easy for me, help me through. And I think having somebody like Roxanne do the 10 tips for navigating, getting the navigation down first, that's the key. And she'll do a really good job. And then us coming back in at a more in-depth level. And you can see you live and die with the two panels on the right. Here's your main side panel and your build side panel. I agree with Paul. Renaming would be nice. They changed. I've learned very quickly up here, we've got the report element data and the report format. Okay. And then we move into the feed button, and here you go for your different objects that make it up. And, you know, as I look at that, I got year, quarter, sales, revenue, quantity sold. I can take my state, drag it over into the report directly, or I can drag the state right in between. Say, let's put it right in there, and we'll drop that little piece into place as well. So it's different look and feel to it, but I'm getting really used to the right side and kind of hovering around this becoming my home, especially the build side panel that you see right here. You know, here's your standard query. Here's your reports for your structural blocks, report maps in here. So if you're using what you see here, the master detail, that's how you would navigate. We're so used to things being on the left side, that just transition it all over to the right side and took a lot of it off the top as well. So hopefully it was give you some good insight. You can tell I'm very comfortable. Having worked a long while, and both of our organizations have had a long round of experience from the beta release to 4.3 SP1 through 2. And Samuel's been very, very responsive to things when we've come back and said, well, what about this? What about that? Can you add this or that? And him and his crew have done a great job. So I thank him for that and making it it's a very comfortable product that you can learn to be very comfortable with in a very short time window.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was going to ask, you know, that dragging to the right instead of the left it takes a little bit of adjustment. But then again, you know, it occurred to me, it depends whether you're left-handed or right-handed. You might see it as an advantage or a disadvantage. Anyway, again, we just had a comment in from Celine saying, thank you, Michael, for the great tips, but no questions at this time. So with that said, I'll hand back over to Lucy. Thanks again, Michael. Fantastic job.
Thank you.